Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking some stats, some numbers, all about my fourth quarter, which is October to December of 2022, what I read, what I liked, how it went, the whole shebang. So, fourth quarter was like an interesting time for me because I did Booktober, which was posting almost 31 videos every day of the month, one video per day. For my very first time, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like a great success either, especially because I wasn't dedicated to doing the thing. I very much did as much as I could and then like slack for a little while because I did not pre-record any content for it. I just went with the flow, and that was not maybe the correct move. So I know now, I know better for if I do that again. But I read the most books in October because of that. And then maybe it was burnout, maybe it was seasonal, who knows. But like November is when the mental health really began to tank. And then December is when like I was at rock bottom. We're better, getting better now. But it makes for very interesting statistics. So let's take a look at my stats. I will try and put them here the best that I can. I read 27 books in total in October, which is so good. And then November was 8 and December was 6, which is still really good. I need to preface the fact that like I pride myself on the fact that I managed to read a lot of books because I listen to so many audiobooks. And so that's like a big portion of my reading, which we'll get to that stat here in a bit. But that's important to note that like me reading 41 books in 3 months is because I am a booktuber who reads a lot. Like that's my thing, is that I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I come home and I read a lot of books. I spend my weekends doing 24-hour readathons by myself because I like to read. So these numbers are low for me. Like the 27's like the highest I've ever maybe read. That's a lot. I usually average like 10 to 15. So 8 and 6 is low for me, but like very proud. Like that's something to be proud of. Like that's still good numbers. That's like great. Like me reading 6 books when I was like super depressed and nothing was bringing me any joy. Like that's something. Whoa. Why would you do that? So me reading 6 books when I was depressed is like good. That's good. Pages read, absolutely insane. So I read 2,414 pages in October, 2,314 in November, and 2,084 in December. Like, she's a reader. She can like read books. So that was a total of 6,812 pages read because I did a lot of like mixed media. I read a lot of books. That's like crazy. If you look at my stats from 2021, I like averaged around like 1,000 pages or less. Like I was not reading as many pages. So I'm really proud of myself. As for my audiobook listening, for October, it was around 101 hours. November was 52 hours, 45 minutes, and December was 60 hours and 15 minutes. So October, it was a lot because I was reading a lot of books, and so audiobooks are the key to reading more. And then it kind of like dips for November and December. But December was like a lot of mixed media type of thing. So it's interesting to see a total of 214 hours. I didn't DNF anything. I typically don't. I have soft DNF so many books from like 2022 coming into 2023 because I didn't have time to clear my currently reading like list. So I just soft DNF'd a bunch of books and I was like, I don't care, it's fine. So in total for reading, I read 9 ebooks, 9 physical books, 12 audiobooks, and 11 mixed media, which means that I'm listening to the audiobook as I'm reading along physically. That's my preferred way of reading because I can read a lot faster with an audiobook assisting me, and it makes words make more sense for my little dyslexic brain. Highly recommend. So I read across 8 genres in total in the last 3 months. The main one being fantasy and horror, which is, as per usual, those are like my top genres. They are my favorite genres. I hope to continue reading more and more come 2023, this year. I read 2 classics and 2 romances. And then, let's see what else we've got. Oh no, I read 2 magical realism. That's so interesting because I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it. I don't love magical realism. Like, it's not the genre for me. The one that I read was like objectively a fantastic book, The Inheritance of Orcadia Divina. Objectively fantastic book. Personally, not for me. But the other one I read was Before Your Memories Fade, which is the 3rd in the Before Your Coffee Gets Cold series going on by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. And like that's my kind of like magical realism, where it's basically fantasy, but it's also kind of like sci-fi, but it's also kind of like just like barely. Does that make any sense? Probably not. But then I read 1 romance, 1 nonfiction, 1 historical fiction, and 1 thriller. Historical fiction, I read The Doll Factory, which was a total flop, worst book of them all. I absolutely detested that entire thing. It was so bad. And the nonfiction I read was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, which was like really good. Heartbreaking, hard to read, but good. So those were the genres that I read. I read 2 translated books, which, as you might know, I love translated books. They're sometimes fantastic, sometimes not so great, but Japanese translated fiction has been some of my favorites this year. I read, as I mentioned, Before Your Memory Fades, and Fruits Basket, which is a Japanese manga translated. And I love them. So that's been a great experience. As for book format, 21 have been novels, 12 graphic novels, 2 short stories, 4 novellas, and 1 manga. That's pretty good for me. I feel like my graphic novels, like, I learned a lot about graphic novels, and they do something so good in me. Like, I just love graphic novels with my whole heart. I would like to read more and more until I've devoured them all, and then I can focus more on, like, novels again. But I'm proud of myself. 21 novels, that's really good. I read a lot of, like, novellas and short stories because they're less intimidating for me. I read 11 2022 releases and 6 from 2021, 5 from 2020, 4 from 2018, and 4 from 2019. So, like, we're in a good range of new and old. I feel like I'm doing better at reading backlist books rather than just focusing on all the new releases, while still bringing in new releases into my reading. Mostly through audiobooks, because it's just truly a lot easier to get my hands on a brand new audiobook rather than like a brand new physical book, because that's like more money I have to spend on a book, and like books get expensive, y'all. So that's been good, relatively even, I would say. Like, I've been reading a good amount of new releases each quarter and a better amount of backlists, because there's still some gems out there that should be read. As for age category, 23 adult books, 16 young adult books, and 1 middle grade. I'm content with where my young adult to adult ratio keeps landing. I feel like I find a lot of gems in young adult, like I just love them, whereas adult, like, are more hit or miss for me, I think. I do enjoy most of them, but at the same time, like, they're adult, and it's not always what I'm looking for. Like, sometimes I really want the tropey, like, campy books. Like, I just want to read something that, like, I know, it's predictable, if you will. Like, I just want to read, like, fantasy that's just gonna make me happy, you know? As for LGBTQ rep, 35 books absent, 4 books main character, 1 book present. That's bad. That's, like, not good. I'm really struggling, and I'll get to this. Disability breakdown, 37 absent, 3 main characters, and then POC authors, 28 no, 10 yes. 24 books written by women. That's the biggest stat. That's great. So I'm having an issue when looking for books and finding books to read, and this is where I go to other Bookstagram accounts or other booktuber accounts to find recommendations. But here's my issue. I primarily read fantasy and horror. Those are the two genres that are probably the most saturated with white authors because men dominate the fantasy sci-fi realm, whereas women dominate the romance realm. And I don't read a lot of romance. And LGBTQ disability overall is just not going to be easily found. It's making me frustrated trying to find fantasy series or books or horror books that are going to involve people of color and minority groups of any kind. And I'm just struggling, and I need to do more research this year on like finding other people's lists. But a lot of the times when I'm trying to find more Black authors to read, it's a lot of romance or just overall contemporary fiction, and that's just not what I'm looking for. So 2023 is the year of finding fantastic female, non-binary authors who are of color and write more on the fantasy horror side of things. That's one of my goals. But overall, I am content with the stat, I suppose. It's always annoying. Also, just to clarify, when I say disability rep, I'm including like mental health things because that's something I relate to. So that's something that I look for in books, is like characters with histories or eating disorders and anxiety and depression and all that stuff. So like that falls under my disability umbrella, but I do still need more like actual disability representation in my books. I reread one book, and 40 of them were for the first time. That's not surprising. 20 of the books I got from Scribd. 20 of them I already owned, and one was from the library. I've started keeping track of library books now that I have a library card. I will keep announcing how proud of myself I am for finally having one, but I'm hoping that my library stat will go up. But I've been mixed media a lot of the library audiobooks that I've been getting. I've just been like finding things on my shelf and then checking out the audiobook to pair with it, so hard to keep track of that. As for my series versus standalones, I read 19 standalones and 21 series, which means that I've started 12 series. Oh no, I started 12 series. I finished 3 of them, and I read 7 sequels. I'm so excited to tell you guys about all of the series that I'm reading. I'm so scared. As I said, I read 24 authors that identify as female. 6 are multiple authors, 9 men, and one non-binary author. As for the breakdown of POC authors, 4 of them were Asian, 1 of them was Black, 3 of them were Indigenous, and 2 were Latin or Latinx, I suppose, depending. Own voices, I don't like tracking that because I don't know what qualifies that necessarily. And I don't necessarily think that every minority should have to write in own voices to be like a good qualified author. Like if you're gay and you write about straight characters, I think that should still be valid. So I don't know what to do about own voices. I think it's important. I just don't know how to track it. Nationalities for authors are one of my favorite things to track. I'm not sure why. 20 of them were American. 6 books, multiple authors, multiple nationalities. 3 Indigenous, 2 Irish. That's more than likely Keelan Patrick Burke because I love him. 2 of them are British, 2 were Japanese, and then 1 Chinese American, 1 Colombian American, 1 Ecuadorian American, 1 English, which is the same as British. I don't know why I do that. 1 Filipino American. I just think it's really fun to see like where from the world and where in the world I'm reading. One thing I do want to get better about is reading outside of, like, for example, Colombian American. Like, maybe I will focus more on like the actual country's origin rather than American-centric authors, but either way, it is fun to see that stat. I read 20 new authors and 20 read from before authors, 20 authors that I'm already familiar with, and I read across 29 different authors, the most one being Joe Hill, who wrote the Lock and Key graphic novels. I did a whole reading vlog for those. 5 for Adrienne Young. I did a whole vlog reading all of her books in like 24 hours, 48 hours. Lovely time. 2 from Kealan Patrick Burke, who I love and adore. 2 from Stephen Graham Jones. I also adore him. And 2 from Stina Grace. Those were graphic novels, I do believe, as well. Yeah, Ghosted in LA. Yep. So, yeah, that's it. Lots of authors, lots of people. Definitely a lot I'm able to reflect on for this coming 2023 year of like what I want to be focusing on. Now let's chat about some books specifically. So my least favorite was more likely than not The Doll Factory. I thought that was brutal and it caused so many reading slumps. I gave it 2 stars. I don't recommend. I didn't rate 2 books that I read just because I don't rate memoirs typically, and I don't rate like non-book things, if that makes any sense. One of them being I'm Sorry Did You Say Street Magic, which is an RPG tabletop kind of game to help with world building. I absolutely adore it. I hope to have friends one day that want to build a fun world with me and hope like a writing kind of situation, because I am a writer as to some degree, and so it's a fun game to build a world, and I wanted to remember the fact that I had read it, and so I marked it as a book read, and I don't care. The other one was, again, a memoir by Jeanette McCurdy, which I don't feel like I have any right to say if it's good or not. That's your life. So that's that. I do prefer giving out half stars. So again, 2 of them were not rated. About 11 5 stars, which is so good. Oh no. Hello. So I gave out 11 5 stars in the past 3 months, which is so good. I gave out 6 4.5 stars and 10 4 stars. That means that there was 7 3.5, 3 3 stars, and 1 2.5, which was really a 2. That's like so good. That's like so good. Out of the 5 stars, which was my favorite? So there was 3, I would say, 5-star books that I like. Night Circus, Fruits Basket, because I just adore it so much, and The Last House on Abigail Lane by Kealan Patrick Burke. I will be I don't know. I'm still deciding on what's like my all-time favorites of the year. I'm gonna have a top 10 list. It'll be out next week. Next week from when this video goes up, my best and worst of 2022 will be out, which we're gonna figure them out, I promise. But until then, those were some of the takeaway books that I really adored. Those came from October and December. So overall, good reading. I'm very happy with my stats. I will have my 2022 stats out eventually, probably after we talk about like favorites and least favorites and so on and so forth, because there's so much to cover. And then after that, I will probably discuss my goals more in depth, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me. I know statistic videos are like hit or miss, because there's the people that like them and there's the people that just like don't care. I'm definitely one of those people that enjoy looking at statistics and comparing statistics and so on, but I don't know, like, that, why would anyone else really care, you know? But either way, I'm documenting it for myself. Thanks for watching if you did. Give this video a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe down below if you want to see more from me. Posting like 4 times a week right now when I'm sticking to my schedule. But yeah, that's gonna be it. I will see you guys super soon in my next video, like Saturday. So bye!